In this WrestleTalk news, the backstage reaction to Vince McMahon wanting to return to WWE, a major NXT championship changed hands last night, Raw draws a terrible rating, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
2022 has been quite an insane year of wrestling news. Steve Austin wrestled one of the main events of WrestleMania. Vince McMahon fired his own son because he acted like a child around the booking in the Royal Rumble. One of the founders of All Elite Wrestling left All Elite Wrestling and signed for the competition, and that was only the first few months of 2022. Since then, we've had Brawl Out, various other fights and incidents backstage in AEW, William Regal both signing and leaving All Elite Wrestling, Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out on an episode of Raw while being tag team champions, and more. But perhaps the biggest news story of all was Vince McMahon retiring from the sport of professional wrestling. McMahon's issues first began back in June when the Wall Street Journal released an article that alleged Vince had paid $3 million in hush money to cover up an affair with a former employee, which prompted an internal investigation that showed there were other non-disclosure agreements paid out totaling $12 million. He stepped down as CEO, placing his daughter Stephanie McMahon, who herself was trying to leave the company just a few weeks prior, to replace him as the interim CEO. He remained in control of creative for both Raw and SmackDown, however, until a follow-up article from the Wall Street Journal just a couple of weeks later prompted McMahon to officially resign, placing Stephanie and Nick Khan as co-CEOs of WWE, and his son-in-law Triple H took over as head of creative. The articles also involved head of talent relations John Laurinaitis, who was fired from the company in late June. WWE told investors in November that the investigation into the alleged misconduct by Vince was now complete and the committee had been disbanded. Things changed massively in WWE, and very quickly. The company brought back many wrestlers that had been fired or released, including notable names that had clashed with McMahon creatively, like Bray Wyatt. However, yesterday on December 13th, the Wall Street Journal released a new piece on McMahon, just hours before Vice's 9 Lives of Vince McMahon documentary aired, which detailed 2 sexual assault cases that have been filed against Vince McMahon. The first was from Rita Chatterton, a well-documented referee from the 1980s who claimed Vince sexually assaulted her in a limousine in 1986. The second is a brand new claim from a spa owner who alleges McMahon sexually assaulted her in 2011. McMahon has denied both of the allegations and, according to the Wall Street Journal, has told people he refuses to pay settlements to Miss Chatterton and the former spa manager. But that's not the only thing he's been telling people, as also within the story was this quote. Mr. McMahon has also told people that he intends to make a comeback at WWE, according to people familiar with his comments. He has said that he received bad advice from people close to him to step down, and that he now believes the allegations and investigations would have blown over had he stayed. Just 145 days since he retired, Vince McMahon wants to return to WWE and presumably take back control. Anecdotally speaking, we've seen much more praise in our comment section here on WrestleTalk and on the WrestleTalk podcast channel for WWE's product since Triple H took over creative, which might be why the news that Vince McMahon wants to return to WWE didn't go down all that well with our audience when we posted a video about it yesterday. And it would appear that our audience isn't the only group of people with this reaction, as WWE are reportedly not rolling out a red carpet for a Vince McMahon return confirmed. After the Wall Street Journal article was posted, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful tweeted, "Numerous WWE higher-ups that I've spoken to in recent months have indicated to us that they want nothing to do with Vince McMahon returning and are happy with the direction. I haven't heard one person there itching for a Vince return." PW Insider echoed these sentiments, with Mike Johnson reporting, "I spoke to at least a dozen people who work for WWE and not a single one of them wants to see McMahon come back. In fact, every one of them feels just the opposite." Johnson adds that, under Vince, the backstage dynamic in WWE was a tense workplace, and people are happier and enjoy going to work under the new regime. In an interesting ending to the report, he writes, "You can't show people a better way than take it from them. If they have other options, they will pursue them." Fightful also spoke with people backstage within WWE following this latest Wall Street Journal article, with one source calling the news exhausting. Another source told Fightful the morale within WWE has grown tenfold since McMahon left. Another, while not saying that a return would be concerning, did note that things have strengthened since McMahon departed the company. Another source said it would be a really selfish move for Vince to come back under any circumstances. The reason he left, how business has done since then, it'd be really selfish. Sean Ross Sapp adds the rarely unanimous reaction was that McMahon was not wanted back. The source who told Fightful that it would be selfish for McMahon to return also pointed out that business, contrary to what the belief has always been, didn't collapse when Vince left. The stock prices have increased, morale has increased, house shows have increased, live events have increased, and ratings have increased. Though this week is an anomaly to that statement, which we'll get into later. Mike Johnson of PW Insider even noted that the stock price dropped yesterday by over 2%, which he writes, "In my opinion, it was down due to the part of the story that stated Vince McMahon is considering a return to the company. The stock rallied sharply after he left the company, so it would stand to reason that it would drop if he returned." Johnson also adds that Wall Street, the finance place, not the Journal, were happy WWE distanced themselves from Vince, and that it would make no sense that they would welcome him back following 2 more accusations and legal demands. He adds WWE may be forced to make a statement if the stock price drops further. Not only that, but he writes that both NBC Universal and Fox might not want to deal with McMahon either. He writes, will they want to be in business with him, especially with the fear of other women coming forward hanging over their heads? So the question now becomes, can Vince McMahon come back? Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live noted that it wouldn't be quite as simple as walking back into the office on Monday and announcing he's returned. But Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics noted on Twitter, Vince McMahon still has majority voting control of WWE thanks to preferred class family stock. His resignation only required him to forfeit a small number of shares that were part of his compensation and hadn't vested. He added in another tweet, Vince McMahon reportedly wanting to come back to WWE makes a company sale less likely for now, since as controlling shareholder, he'd have to approve. He obviously wouldn't want to relinquish the control he'd need to return. Thurston also speculated that Vince could install a new board to get what he wants, even if it would come at a great cost to its media value and partnerships. On the subject of that board, Alvarez noted on Wrestling Observer Live, the reason he voluntarily stepped down was that if he hadn't voluntarily stepped down, it was going to be done in a different manner. He added, I'm not saying he's never going to be back. I'm not saying it's not possible. He can have all the intentions he wants, but there's a lot that would have to happen for him to just come back. So what do you think? Do you think that Vince McMahon will come back to WWE? And if he does, what happens next? You let me know in the comments down below. And while this likely will have no bearings on the story we've just covered, this week's Raw did not do that well in the ratings. Thank you for your support on Patreon because Kevin Stone Con said so, and the British Bulldog Philip Boyd J. Smith Jr. Get your own Patreon shoutouts on the WrestleTalk news by going to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This week's Raw was dominated by 2 #1 contendership matches, with Bayley and Alexa Bliss facing off for the position to face Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship, while Seth Rollins battled Bobby Lashley to face Austin Theory for the US title. However, this episode of Raw tied its worst ever rating on USA Network with 1.47 million viewers. The other lowest rated episode aired on July 5th, 2021, which was obviously affected by July 4th celebrations. This week's episode also drew its 3rd lowest 18 to 49 demo with a 0.37. The usual culprit for bad Raw ratings is Monday Night Football, but that also drew lower than usual ratings. Bizarrely, the ratings pattern didn't follow the usual structure either, which is the show peaks in hour 1, declines slightly in hour 2, then drops massively in hour 3. But for this week's episode, hour 1 drew 1.48 million viewers, while hour 2 grew to 1.55 million, then fell to 1.39 million for the 3rd hour, meaning both of the top contender matches were the least drawing things on the show. The 3rd hour was above last week's record low though, which means that some people were at least interested in Lashley versus Rollins in some capacity. Raw is down 6% year on year, but that's really only about 1% when you factor in percentages of the homes the show is in and cord cutting. Hopefully NXT won't suffer similar drops, as they had a major title change on last night's show. After winning the remarkably great Iron Survivor Challenge over the weekend, Roxanne Perez, the former Roxy in ROH, was the person to end Mandy Rose's 413-day reign as NXT Women's Champion, as she pinned the champ to win the title on NXT's TV. The match was originally supposed to take place on January 10th, but was moved forward to last night's episode. Grayson Waller will have his NXT Championship match after winning his Iron Survivor Challenge on that January 10th episode. Speaking of NXT, and it's been speculated since Nikki Cross returned to her old gimmick and ditched the superhero stuff that we could see a return of her old faction Sanity, especially as Triple H is bringing back a lot of his favorite NXT acts that were released under Vince. This speculation was furthered when Eric Young finished up with Impact recently, with the news his contract ends with them at the end of 2022. And now Cross herself has fueled that speculation fire, posting an Instagram story that suggests the group is returning. The dates posted in the drawing are April 21st, 1989, which is Nikki's birthday, November 21st, 2018, which is when she faced Candice LeRae in NXT, and October 12th, 2016, which was the debut of Sanity in NXT. The image also features the logo used for Sanity back in the day. Cross has been spotted backstage in Raw segments stalking Candice LeRae, which would suggest that Sanity could come in to feud with the Garganos. Avatar: The Way of Water opens this weekend, and Laurie Blake and Dan Layton break the movie down in our latest episode of What's On at Cineworld Cinemas, filmed on location inside a Cineworld cinema. Check it out.
So Dan,
Yeah.
it's finally happening.
I cannot believe it. I can't
years.
believe it, because we've been talking about it for so long, and yet somehow it feels like the release of Avatar: The Way of Water suddenly being upon us has come out of nowhere.
Yeah, mustn't feel like that for James Cameron.
No.